Good afternoon and welcome to ESSEC Knowledge Live, a new webcast series with our ESSEC professors who will take a look at what's happening in the news and share their expert opinions. Today, we're here with Professor Xavier Pavie to talk about responsible innovation. As it's live, don't hesitate to post your questions and we will answer them over the course of the show. Good afternoon, Xavier.
Good afternoon.
And thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So, Xavier Pavie is Professor of Innovation, Academic Director of Master in Management, Grande Ecole in Singapore, and Director of Imagination Center. Today, Xavier, we are facing so many disruptive innovations. A great example can be Elon Musk, a visionary entrepreneur who owns many companies, such as SpaceX, a company who launched recently private aerospace called AV Falcon. So what can you tell us about it? What are these innovations?
The most important things, maybe the most interesting things about Elon Musk and what he has done, he has decided to not just disrupt, but to have a new paradigmatic approach of space and how could we launch different satellites, for instance, and maybe human as well to Mars. What is very interesting is the last maybe 50 years, we have had a new approach of innovation. I would say since the beginning of the time, it could be with the myth, it could be with the religion, it could be with different things like that. We would like to improve our life and we would like to extend our life and we would like to become immortal as well. So if you look so many myths like Icare, for instance, if you have Prometheus, if you have the Fountain of Youth, that's also the case that we willing to have a better life, comfortable life, and we want to extend the life and at the end to become immortal. So that's not really new actually. The point is now maybe it's possible to do. It will be possible to do. So the question is, what should we do? Because what we wanted before, it is possible to do. So that's an issue. That's the issue that what if we can do that? What if we can be immortal? What if we can transplant, I don't know, a new arm, but not to repair it, not to fix a problem that we have, but to have a better one, to perform better. So that's a very important question about this kind of innovation, and not only the paradigmatical innovation, like internet, the second stage of the DNA, for instance, and other things like that.
Okay. With that said, can we say that we should be scared? Because what is innovation? We, as human beings, we can say that we are even products, a sum of innovations. What are the challenges? Should we be scared?
It's not new. We all scared of innovation since the beginning of the time, because there is a very important thing about innovation is the character of one of the components of innovation is the uncertainty. You never know how people will use your innovation. That's the case with Facebook, that's the case with gun, for instance, that's the case with many things like that. You never know how people will use it. You never know what's the consequence, the impact of innovation. It's because of that. It's not a question of I'm afraid about what's going on. The question is I'm afraid of the usage that we can do about innovation or with this innovation. So it's always a question of responsibility, and being responsible of what you are going to do with your innovation, it's important. In other words, the responsibility, and maybe we will talk about it a bit later, but the most important thing is not innovation itself. Scaring of innovation doesn't make sense, if I could say that. The most important thing is, should we scare of innovator? Because they are doing innovation. So innovation itself, that's this kind of sentence from the lobby of guns in the US when they say that guns never killed anyone, that's only men, which is true actually. But what is not true is who put the gun in the hands of murderers and so on. That's innovator. So the most important question is, how could we act on innovators? What could we do with innovators? Innovation itself, it's not an issue. Innovators are an issue.
Yes, that's a point with this kind of Cambridge Analytica.
Yeah, absolutely. The point with Cambridge Analytica, it's not a question of collecting data, it's a question of how some people use the data and the purpose of using these data, which is absolutely amazing because they are absolutely no responsible. They will just look at their own interests, and that's the problem. So it's not a question of data. Data, we don't care about data, and data are not new. The question is collecting the data for what? What are the purpose? And for that, we need to consider the responsibility of the one who uses the data.
Yeah.
That's the most important thing. And your question is very relevant because most of the time we talk about innovation, but innovation is not the issue. Innovators are the issue.
Such as internet with the whole.
Absolutely.
The Chinese Communism Party. And
absolutely. 30 years ago when you're right, 30 years ago when we developed internet, actually, that was to have more freedom, more connections, to exchange data, to exchange informations, to have more freedom, basically. And internet was a tool, what was a mean in order to improve freedom, to improve the collection of information, to spread ideas, to collect ideas. In the meantime, today, we use internet for another way, like to control people, to check people, to always verify if these people are correct or not. Like in China, as you mentioned, for instance, that internet could be used to control people, which is not exactly the purpose of internet at the beginning of that time.
Of course. So how innovation can be responsible, and should it really be responsible?
Actually, we have to think about what we want to do and the innovator. There is such as like a gap between innovation, what my client wants, and what I'm an innovator I can do. Most of the time, if I ask you, what did you want? You will tell me that I want a better smartphone, I want a better camera, I want a better battery, I want a better autonomy, and so on and so forth. But the question is, should we do that? That's the most important question. In other words, most of the time we understood marketing as the way, or innovation as the way to give an answer to the client or the consumer. So we ask customer driven, or maybe we have sometimes customer centricity. We observe the consumer. And then according to their needs that we discover, we will give an answer. The question is, should we give an answer to every single need? The last decade, we have had more than 10 generations of iPod, iPhone, and so on and so forth. The question is, how could we build, how could we produce, what is the production of an iPhone? What is the production of an iPod? What could we do with the product at the end of their life? The recycle of things is very important. So it's not because a client wants something that we are supposed to deliver these things. And that's the responsibility of innovator. That's the first thing to understand innovation or responsible innovation. We should question the request, the needs of the clients. And maybe we can say, no, I won't do it. All of the clients, the consumer, they are not engineers. They are not able to think about the consequence of what they want. For instance, I will give you an example. When we have the touch screen, the iPhone, for instance, and other things like that, like Samsung and so on. When you have to produce it, to have the screen, the touch screen, it's the tactical one, the touch screens. To produce this one, you need to use some rare earth. And rare earths are very useful to produce this kind of tactical screen. But at the end of the day, if you use it, you will reduce, of course, the resource of the earth itself, because we consume it. And after that, we cannot find other. We have the same planet. We have just one planet with more than 5 to 6 billion people. We will have more and more people, maybe 10 billion people. If everybody wants to have a tactical screen, if everybody wants to have a car, everybody wants to have an airplane, and so on and so forth. The question is, how could we do it? Because we have just one planet. So the first question is, should we give an answer to the consumer, to the client? The second point is to check the consequence of what we are going to do for them. And the consequence, because sometimes we can harm our clients. That's the case with the Wi-Fi, that's the case with Facebook, because they will use your data. So as Mark Zuckerberg said a few days ago, or a few weeks ago, it's very important to take into considerations that what we will share, we will have an impact, and maybe they will use it for a certain purpose. So actually it's a direct impact of innovation. And the third one is the indirect impact of innovation. The indirect impact of innovation is when you do something wrong, not to your client, but also to the ecosystem. For instance, I really like to use the example of the nano socks, that Japanese brand, the nano socks. You have socks, you can wear it for a day, and at the end of the day, you will wash the nano socks. But the problem is, inside of the nano sock, the nanoparticle, all of the nanoparticles will go to the wastewater, and then it will go to the plants, to the animals, and to the rest of the ecosystem. So to become responsible, we need to have, and we need to ask to ourselves 3 questions. Should I give an answer to the need? What are the direct impact of my innovation? What are the indirect impact of innovation? That's basically the 3 main pillars to have a responsible innovation, responsible question.
Yes, in that context, what is the role of philosophy? What does philosophy add to our comprehension of innovation, of society, of the world we live in?
To reply to this question, it's important to understand what is innovation. Innovation, the purpose of innovation is to transform yourself, to transform your company in order to survive. Innovation comes from the Latin word, innovare, inside, novare, change. You need to change something inside someone or some organization in order to survive, because you have competitors, because the environment is very highly competitive. So you want to survive or you want to fix some problem. Most of the time, in companies, for instance, you have innovators and you have a request from the clients or maybe other new requests and conscious requests and conscious needs. And then you don't think. I have a question, I have the needs, I have an answer. And then stick together without thinking about the consequence, about what I just said. What kind of discipline could help innovators to think differently if it's not philosophy? The philosophy is the possibility to think. And the main important purpose of responsible innovation is thinking about what we do. If we don't think, we are just between the reality, what my customer wants, and what I'm supposed to do. And I don't care about the rest. I will just deliver exactly what my clients want. And that's it. So the role of the philosophy is to questioning what we do. If you don't question what we do, you don't think at all. And maybe we will have any consequence. Maybe we will harm our ecosystem, client, and so on. So the first role of philosophy is questioning.
Okay, thanks for that, Xavier. So now we are going to take one question from the viewers. Let me see. The first question is there a way to stop innovation or simply hold it back? Should we try to do it?
To stop innovation?
Yes. There a way to stop innovation?
There a way to stop innovation. Actually, innovation, of course, you can stop it if you decide to stop innovation. The problem is, if it is an innovation, it means that you have
to hold it back. Let's say hold it back.
Hold it back, it's possible. The problem is, when you have an innovation, you are in a competitive environment. If it is an innovation, it's because it is a success. And that's the difference. It's a very good question because it helped me to go back to a difference between invention and innovation. Invention is just an idea. It's just an idea, it's just a prototype, sometimes it's just a mock-up, but it's not an innovation. From invention to innovation, we need to make profit, we need to make value in order to do it. So for an innovation, it's very hard for a company to say, okay, hold it back and then, or maybe stop it, and because maybe it is irresponsible. Why? It's very difficult to take these decisions because certainly your competitors will do. So the problem is always between what could I do with responsibility that my competitors won't do, because it's always like that. Maybe my competitors will decide to do because I'm responsible and I said it's not a good thing to do. So that's the main issue. So to fix this problem, we need to include responsibility into the process. To innovate, we have what we call it, the innovation process management, IPM, innovation process management. Now the purpose is to have a responsible innovation process management. And a responsible innovation process management, it's how could we include responsibility, question, philosophical approach, philosophical question, philosophical reflection into every single stage of innovation. If you do that, If we do that, we are able to manage properly responsibility before that the product or the services could be launched.
Yeah, what you just said reminds me of Hans Jonas. You know, probably this guy. Can you tell us more about what he meant?
Yeah, actually, Jonas, the philosopher Jonas said, we have to develop a principle of responsibility, which is different than the precautionary principle. Because most of the time when we don't know something, when we don't know the consequence of something, we said, okay, hold on, we stop it, we don't know, so we don't do. The problem is, in the globalization system where we are, the globalization of the economy, someone else in the other side of the planet will do. So that's why Jonas is more like, if you don't know, take it properly, take care of it. You can do it, but you have to control it, to manage it. That's the principle of responsibility. You can do, because if not, someone else will do, but take care of it.
Okay, thank you, Xavier. That is all the time we have for now. Thanks for joining us. Remember that the replay will be available on ESSEC YouTube account. Don't hesitate to share it, especially on Twitter, with the EKLive hashtag. And see you next time.
Bye.